In 1988, the most advanced oil rig in the world exploded in the middle of the North Sea. 167 people died. The investigation team had no idea why it happened. Then, 3 months later, they pulled the wreckage from the ocean floor. And inside that wreckage, they found a single piece of paper. That piece of paper explained everything. Let me take you back to 1976. In the North Sea, about 190 kilometers off the coast of Aberdeen, Scotland, a company finished building something extraordinary. It was called Piper Alpha, an oil platform sitting in one of the most remote, most hostile stretches of ocean in the world. There was no land for miles in any direction. No cities, no roads, nothing but dark water and North Sea weather. But Piper Alpha was basically a city on its own. At any given time, 226 workers lived and worked on this platform around the clock in rotating shifts. It had sleeping quarters, a cafeteria, a gym, an entertainment area. It was 170 meters tall from the seabed to the top, taller than most skyscrapers, and more than half of that height was underwater, anchored directly to the ocean floor 750 feet below. The platform weighed 20,000 tons. That is roughly the same as 100 fully loaded train wagons. It was built to withstand storms with winds of 185 kilometers per hour. Engineers at the time called it one of the most impressive offshore structures ever built. And they were right. On its best days, Piper Alpha produced over 300,000 barrels of oil every single day. It was not just impressive, it was the most productive oil platform on Earth. By 1988, Piper Alpha had been running for 12 years without a major incident. The workers who lived on it knew its routines the way you know the layout of your own home. Every morning, every afternoon, every night shift, the same procedures, the same checks, the same paperwork. And it was that routine, that happened on the morning of July 6th, 1988, that makes what came after so devastating. At 7:45 in the morning, a maintenance team asked the control room for permission to work on one of the platform's condensate pumps. Condensate is a light form of liquid petroleum that forms when natural gas is compressed, and Pump B was one of 2 pumps that handled this process. Permission was granted. The paperwork was filled out. The team started work. By 6 o'clock that evening, the maintenance on Pump B was not finished. This was completely normal. It happened all the time. The team logged the incomplete work, scheduled it to continue the next day, and handed over to the night shift. Here is what the night shift knew. Pump B was under maintenance and should not be started. Here is what the night shift did not know. The maintenance team had also removed the safety valve from Pump B as part of their work. The safety valve and the pump itself were in 2 separate rooms. Nobody had checked both rooms. Nobody had connected the 2 pieces of paperwork. At 9:45 p.m., an alarm went off in the control room. Pump A had tripped and stopped working. Without Pump A, the platform's entire condensate production would shut down within 30 minutes. The operators checked the maintenance logs for Pump B. The logs showed that maintenance on Pump B had not yet started. So from their perspective, Pump B should be fine to turn on. They turned it on. Within 10 minutes, condensate gas was pouring out of the open space where Pump B's safety valve was supposed to be. The gas spread through Module C. It hit an ignition source. And at 9:55 p.m., the first explosion tore through Piper Alpha. Workers who were in their sleeping quarters when the explosion hit had no idea what had happened. The platform's automatic safety systems switched everything off. The generators, the pumps, the compressors. For a moment, the platform went completely silent. Workers who had been through safety drills their whole careers went to the muster stations and waited for helicopter rescue. But the fire was growing, and helicopter rescue was becoming impossible. The management of 2 nearby ships that were connected to Piper Alpha by underwater pipelines faced an extraordinary decision. Their pipes were still pumping oil and gas into the burning platform. Shutting them down without authorization could cost them their jobs. They kept pumping. The fire kept growing. At 10:20 p.m., the second explosion hit. This one was far larger than the first. The crude oil tanks on the production deck caught fire. The blast was visible from the Scottish coastline, more than 190 kilometers away. And still, some workers were waiting at muster stations for helicopters that could not reach them. A few men made the decision that saved their lives. They climbed to the edge of the platform and jumped into the freezing North Sea, 35 meters below. The fall alone could kill a person. The sea temperature was cold enough to cause hypothermia within minutes. But for those who jumped, it was the only way out. Rescue boats in the water below pulled survivors from the sea as fast as they could. At 10:50 p.m., the third explosion finished Piper Alpha. The production modules and the living quarters collapsed into the ocean together. From the first explosion to the last, the entire destruction of the most advanced oil platform in the world took exactly 55 minutes. 167 workers died that night. 61 survived. The investigation that followed spent 3 months trying to understand what had caused it. They had witness accounts and photographs, but the wreckage was on the ocean floor.
The Cullen inquiry that followed the disaster produced 106 recommendations for the offshore oil industry. Every single one was implemented. Safety management systems that we now consider completely standard in offshore oil and gas operations worldwide were created directly in response to Piper Alpha. The way permits to work are issued, tracked, and shared between shifts changed because of Piper Alpha. The requirement for independent safety audits on offshore platforms changed because of Piper Alpha. The legal requirement that offshore workers have the right to refuse unsafe work without losing their jobs changed because of Piper Alpha. In Aberdeen, Scotland, a sculpture called Piper Alpha Memorial stands in Hazelhead Park. It shows 3 figures representing the workers who died: an offshore worker, a diver, and a rescue worker. The families of the 167 men who died visit it regularly. The platform itself is still on the ocean floor, where it has been since that night in July 1988. One piece of paper not passed between 2 shifts. One safety valve missing in a room nobody checked. 10 minutes of gas leak. And 167 people never came home. Piper Alpha did not collapse